If you think you might be feeling depressed, stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, BetterHelp, the sponsor of this episode, is here for you. BetterHelp offers a broad range of over 20,000 licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help you. Plus, you can get 10% off your first month with my code, betterhelp.com/Kohler. With BetterHelp, you can talk to your therapist in a private online environment at your convenience, and all you have to do is fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs before getting matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Then you schedule secure video and phone sessions, plus you can exchange unlimited messages and everything you share is completely confidential. As a mom constantly working around Jaden's toddler schedule, having my weekly therapy online has been a complete game changer and a huge reason why I have made big steps to better my mental health for myself and for my family. You can also request a new therapist anytime at no additional charge. Join the 2 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. Don't forget to use my code to get that 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Kohler. That's betterhelp.com/Kohler. Hello and welcome to Kohler Commentary. This is my first episode of 2024, and today I am joined by my husband, Dr. Matt Kohler.
Hello again. Happy to be back.
As I start my podcast episodes for this year, I did want to cast out the vision for the word transition to be a theme for 2024. For many of us who do come from immigrant families, it is in our DNA to be kind of thrown into completely new and foreign environments and circumstances and just be expected to roll with the punches. But I think in general, like, we're so grateful for where we've come and where our parents have sacrificed for us, and we just definitely give thanks to our older generation. But I do think the skill of processing and fully embracing those transitions has not been something we have been equipped with. In my own therapy journey that came to a close at the end of last year, my initial diagnosis, which was in 2021, was actually an adjustment disorder. And so I don't know, maybe if I felt alone in that, or like, oh my gosh, how can I not just be good with change? I thought it would be nice to just kind of like continue to navigate forward, understanding that transitions will constantly happen. And rather than feeling frustrated or exhausted when those times come about, how can we have this open dialogue about different transitions that different people have been in? Long story short, my hope this year is to stay the same in terms of sharing resilient stories from guests through the lens of the Enneagram, but really highlighting on the acceptance of this transition and often talking through tough transitions that might have led us to the growth that we find ourselves at in the end. This is inspired by an excerpt from young Pueblo's newest book, Way Forward, that my sister had given me, and I'm going to read the page on transition, and that's kind of what inspired this. It is normal to feel down, tired, and emotionally exhausted when you're going through a big transition, especially when you have to let go of something good for the chance at something better. Great changes are not meant to be easy. They arise to inspire your growth. What do you think about that page?
It reminds me of the whole Christians are meant to walk through the desert.
Christians are meant to...
Periods of wilderness, right? To expect it and to like value it rather than try to escape it.
Right. Oh, that's, wow, quite deep, Matt. So, for us, it's like along that journey, we can reflect on the past, but also as you do that reflecting, we can kind of move forward with resilient joy, so that sometimes we tend to feel stuck, or I definitely feel stuck a lot. And so rather than being like stuck in that, having that dialogue. And so I think it's definitely obvious that we've talked about some big transitions in our life, like moving, you had career changes, I had career changes, COVID, motherhood. I feel like we've talked in depth about those things, and those are always welcome to come into our conversation with our guests. But today I just wanted to kind of keep it simple and ask you what season of transition you might be in today.
Yeah, I was trying to think about this. So we didn't go over this conversation all, so you don't know what I'm about to say.
I have no idea.
I didn't know what I was about to say either. And then I think
Typical
I realized the transition I'm in right now is transitioning out of transition. Like, I think this is the first time in a long time where I think like 12 months from now could look very similar to what today looks like. It's been a long time since I didn't have so much going through my head, like anticipating, oh my gosh, like everything is going to change so much, like in the next year even, whether it's from med school, relationship, residency, marriage, kids, like a new kid, work. It's like always something for many years. And I think I realized, like, I don't love those big transitions, but I think they give me something definitive to work towards. So like, I think once I started med school and residency, I became a very restless person. I used to really like doing nothing. And I think I mentally think I like doing nothing, but I get restless very easily now when I don't have anything to do. And I think now I'm feeling that come in like a bigger scale. Like, oh, like if next year looks the same as this year, like what am I really trying to accomplish, or like trying to better myself in, or trying to like change, when I'm just trying to like learn how to manage the status quo and become better in that. And it feels a little
so this
unsettling.
is making you, oh wow, I thought this would bring you excitement.
It does in theory. Like, I'm glad there's not this big thing I'm changing, but then at the same time, I have this weird sense of like, I don't want 12 months from now to look like it does now, even though I kind of do, because I don't want all the chaos that comes with transition.
Well, if that's the case, you might as well just reverse it and pop another one. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't know what you're saying. So yeah, I think
Gloria knows.
Like, there is a real transition, sort of like transitioning away from transition. That's my...
So you bringing that up, I do have this follow-up question. Ever since I started dating you, which is med school, you've always been like busy or stressed, or kind of like a part of you, a percentage of you has not been available, which is understandable, right? Because you had this long medical journey. But when you started med school, and you know, that was like difficult for our relationship as we were dating, you said like, don't worry, once this is over and we're in residency, it'll get better, you know? And then after that, you started residency, and it was quite crazy. And then you'd be like, don't worry, after residency, it's attending life and it'll get better, kind of thing. And now when it started, you're pretty, and you know, like open dialogue about like burnt out, right? Even like moving forward, you had to vasectomy to like move forward, right? Like knowing that that chapter, at least children, is over. So like now that you have said this like transition out of a transition, and like in theory you like it, but then it's unsettling. Like, what does it look like for you when there is no, oh, don't worry, once this season is over, then it'll get better? Because now those seasons are almost all over, it seems like. So what does that become?
I think it's just less defined. Like, I know there's a lot of things I can work towards. I'm really good at accomplishing one big thing at a time. I feel like I never fail at like the big thing I'm working towards, but then I lose track of like the 2 through 10 things.
But now you don't got a big
right,
thing
and
to
now, right, exactly. So now I just have a lot of like
2 through 10s.
like important life things, and I think I don't know how to focus in on like any of them.
So you're transitioning into like kind of like a, not an adulting, but like in a sense like the little things.
Yeah, I think I'm transitioning to more just like a broad scope of like, how does it look like to better the version of me like more holistically, rather than bettering this one obvious thing I like have to accomplish. Like there's a time crunch, or there's a that like urgency. So I think it's a combination of like finding urgency in each of these things, and like allotting mental and physical like time and space for them, and sort of not letting things fall through the cracks. And yeah, because that's a lot of directions. Like I think that's the way I treat or interact. Oh, treat's that word, but the way I like love you, the way I don't know, maybe like the one thing that we talk about that I don't do well is like bring excitement, like exciting ideas for like the kids, right? I'm very good at just handling them like at home, like on a day. I don't plan. So, planning things for them. And then my own life, right, I've sort of recommitted to working out again, and that's gone well. But that'd be another thing, like my own physical health and goals. And then, it's just like broad, church stuff, like leadership stuff, maybe like broader family thing. It's a lot, right? It's all these things that I I tend to just ingrain them into my daily life and assume I'm like hitting them all enough when I probably don't hit any of them enough. But there was kind of a built-in excuse all the time. So yeah, so now I think that's like a very different type of transition now that I haven't had to do in a while.
Oh, so I feel like in 2024, I'll see like a new Matt.
I think that's the hope, is that maybe that's instead of like 12 months from now, instead of like a thing I accomplished looking different, maybe it's like me that looks different. That's
Body wise?
No, me as a person. Right? I think maybe that's the change rather than me getting my new job or my
I'd
MD
say
or whatever.
something that was kind of cool was even like this last week, you were like ideating a workout group, you know, like different things like that. Like, I don't think even that would have been something you would dream up, because the big thing would be what you have to just get through.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see like what else comes into your mind and then what you execute.
Yeah.
You know?
I will say, like, there is the nice side of it where it truly is a big thing off my shoulders, like knowing that there isn't this enormous life change coming up.
Oh, just you wait. I will surprise you.
How so? So yeah, that is a very comforting idea to me. It's just reshifting my focus, I think. But yeah, that's a lot about my stuff. I think you I feel like have a little more active changes, like definable changes you're working towards, because I like just got set up into this career that I'm kind of like stuck in now, for better or for worse. I feel like you would have maybe a little bit different answer, so I'm interested in hearing.
I feel like last time we had a podcast episode, I was talking about the new year and getting ready to send Evan. And that was this new change coming ahead of just like identity and time, right? For me, who has primarily been stay-at-home mom as my role. But I lost the job because budget cuts for my organization. And so the part-time job that would have funded Evan's daycare, and a job I was like passionate for, is no longer available. And I don't want to just like find any job just for the purpose of sending Evan. I think this really aligned with my goals. But yeah, I think one thing I feel like I'm embracing is that like transition or change doesn't look like in what I want it to look like. For example, I was ideating all these things and possibilities, but rather than feeling like discouraged or I'm still stuck, I'm just trying to figure out like, what does this unexpectedly same season, still give me the opportunity for the change I was hoping for, but just in a different way.
Do you feel like you like that sort of right? Because that's a more, it's on the spectrum of kind of like what I was saying, but I think a little different. but
I realized as I was talking, you're right.
But it's like less,
I guess the big change isn't happening.
Yeah, like how do you feel about the change in your change?
I guess I feel like I am the author of my change, and I think before, all the circumstances were not my authoring. Like,
so
it
you
was,
feel more in control.
I am not there yet, but I think that's what this season might mean. Like in the past, it was like, baby identity shifting, COVID, like having to quit because COVID, and we had a newborn and then older grandparents, things like that. And so I always felt like this, like, oh, I can't do anything. Kind of like you said, since we do find more balance in our family life with the little kids, I feel like I have more ability to change through things, right? Like my body is no longer tied to feeding the children. And, Evan is a good sleeper. And so there are different things like that. And so I'm excited for the ways that looks like, and I'm still like trying to understand. I am able to coach during all of Evan's nap sessions for Enneagram. And so that allows me to feel a sense of purpose while still being present with him, different things like that. And
so in these next 6 months, I'd be curious, how are you going to measure like your success in this time of change?
Well, I'm also trying something of not measuring my success, because that often leads me to feel like failure.
Well,
so
I feel like it might be based on the measuring stick, right? Because I think for a while, a part of it was like financial measurements, and a part of it was, various things. So I guess like what's a healthy way
to measure that success?
Yeah, of like seeing this next 6 months and being like, okay, like that was time well spent? Like how do you think you can measure that?
Maybe setting like weekly goals and accomplishing, like I think prioritizing my walk with God, creating content for my coaching business, like in those extra times that I do have. Something also is that I will hire Evan Care maybe once a week for one wake session so that I can work straight and then allow that to execute, whether it be cold calling certain amount of companies to pitch Enneagram workshops to, or just creating like packages and deals, or saying like I will do one podcast episode a month at least, and then if it's two, that's like a bonus. I think one thing I did realize in terms of transition though is after this year, and this is the first time I felt like we've been able to have a solid like community life type of thing, and seeing each other in leadership roles, but also like just friend roles that are mutual. But it also made me like grieve Houston community, or like not just Houston community, but in general, when you feel this like excitement for this could be like your people for this season, right? Me being an Enneagram 2, like it also makes me feel like, oh, then if these are the people I'm living life with, the people I was living life with 2 years ago are not those people. And for me as a relation, it doesn't mean one is better than the other. It doesn't mean that they're not our friends anymore type of thing. But there is a grieving for me who is relational and almost losing the intensity of that intimacy that was once going to be shared. And I think that's how I felt with like my girl friendships from college. And that was something that was really hard for me to let go. But I think just even processing that adjustment disorder type of hurt in my heart helped me like recognize that that's something I struggle with when I have to say goodbye to something that is not like an end, but just like the intimacy of it, but also understanding what is best for us in this season. And I think that's what this quote from Young Pueblo that I just read kind of makes me think of in the moment right now.
Yeah, I actually think that transitioning out of seasons of relationships is actually like the number one most challenging thing for you that I've seen transition wise, because that some of it was born from like unhealthy things, right? Like I think part of your transition away from your girlfriends that you kind of grew up with came from like an unhealthy season, but that some of it comes from natural things, like transition away from your family, right, as a daughter and like into a wife, that sort of thing.
Right.
That was super hard for you. The friendships was super hard for you, and then even I think
breakups in the past. Like, it wasn't necessarily that it was like the romantic part gone, but I was like, I'm losing a friend in that way. Yeah. And I just hate losing people.
I think you sometimes almost like create an identity for yourself born from those relationships. And then when that identity changes, you feel like a part of you is like lost.
Right.
And then that's always been, rather than like almost like gaining a new one, it's just you really struggle with the loss of the old one. So I feel like now it seems like it's being done in a healthier way, like the healthiest I've ever seen you transition into like new relationships, I think. And maybe there's like a recognition there too. But yeah, I think that's very true what you're just saying.
Thank you. Well, I wanted to pose to the listeners, what transition might you be going through, whether it's this week or this season or as you've started your new year? What could that have looked like? Maybe talk about that with your loved ones, your spouse, or we're not done yet, Matt, by the way. We got another section to talk through. The other thing that I kind of wanted to bring conversation to is this other book that my sister gave me. A lot of inspiration in my New York trip that I took during MLK weekend. But this is a Korean book from Korea that my sister got when she was there. And it's called 생각 소스. And so I actually realized I never asked her what that meant, but 생각 means like your thoughts or your thinking, right? And then 소스, I'm assuming is like sauce, like the secret sauce, like the thought sauce, So it's kind of just a book of prompts to ask yourself, but it's in Korean. And so I thought, whether it's you, Matt, or in general, I would just ask a question and then have us answer it really quickly. Okay. 요즘 행복하세요. So the word here for you to learn. So 요즘 means lately. 행복하세요. Lately. 행복. Do you know what 행복 means?
No.
행복 means happy. 요즘 행복하세요? Lately, are you happy?
I think so.
Is there anything that makes you happy? You don't have to say me.
I mean, I definitely do get happy. I think I get happy when, I don't know, we just have like nice family moments. My favorite everyday thing, they don't happen every day, but like regular occurrences is like when all four of us are like on the bed on a Saturday morning.
Sounds like such an Enneagram 9.
No, like it's so...
You mean when they're jumping on us?
Yeah, when they're jumping around and happy. I don't know. It's some moments like that. I mean, I don't think I do a good job of like recognizing... I don't know. I don't think I have like a very obvious times like, oh, I'm happy, or oh, I'm sad, or oh, I'm... It's just sort of all like flows into a single just like
Oh my
being.
gosh.
But I can tell times where I'm like pleased with how
Is that
I've
the
like...
extent of your emotion, pleased?
Okay, for example, like I mentioned before, I'm working out again. I don't know if I say I'm happy, but I'm like, it makes me feel like value, not in myself, but like in the time I spent doing that and like the progress I see and just feeling I'm using that time like for like a good reason. So that's like a new thing, right? That was part of my life that I brought back. So I don't know if it makes me happy, but I'm pleased with the fact that it's happening.
I am very proud of you for being consistent in that in the last few weeks.
And again, like, I mean, the happy, like the emotions, I would say I think relationally is still when I identify happiest the most. So that's, you know, stuff with our family, but even like certain relationships, like church relationships I've had, or I mean, I have a friend in Dallas who I've sort of like reconnected with both of them, like a married couple, Derek and Christine, and I've spent more time with them. I don't know why I'm not putting names. I feel like this podcast is like a secretive. But yeah, so like in those, I'm like, oh man, like that's really nice. Like maybe something I hadn't done as well before, and now I'm doing it again. And like another thing, like I value this a lot. Maybe value is the best word for what I feel. I can tell when I do something I value.
I've never heard someone define emotion words as much as you. Like if I'm like, why are you mad? You're like, I don't think that's mad.
So I talked to a lot of my patients about, I don't know if you can hear me when I'm in the room, but I use the term like a value-based approach to life a lot, because I think a lot of people chase after things that, this is a complete like going off track here, but you know, like they chase after emotion, but then when they look back on what they did, they don't actually like value what they did. They just tried to like fill something real quickly. So I talk about, okay, well, like when you look back on your week, I think it's important to see value in what you did and how you spent your time. And I think lately I've been able to see that value in things I've been putting my energy towards, not all the time, but more than maybe before.
Yeah, I see it too. I'm glad you can recognize that for yourself.
What's your answer?
Lately, I do think I'm happy. I agree. It's like the times we get to spend as a family. And I was like thinking the other day, like a year ago, I would have adamantly said I am like utterly depressed and hopeless. And the fact that that can change in a year. And I think that's just part of like how to accept transition, how to embrace it, because that doesn't mean that in between is going to then look happier or better, but it's like understanding that will be ahead and like how to walk in that struggle with as much joy as you can, which doesn't always have to be like there at that moment. But yeah, like just really grateful for our sons and their health and just the conversations and memories we get to build with them. Like it's like, I think I like this little life. Have you heard that on?
I have no idea what that is.
It's like a trending reel audio, but lately that's just been like in my head because that's how I feel about our little Cola crew. And I think also something for me that makes me happy is that I'm understanding where my identity comes from. And I think that's something that like you kind of mentioned was pulled from my different relationships. So if a relationship feels lost or distant, that makes me question things. And that hasn't always been the case, but in the last like shy of a decade, that's like, you know, a huge part of my adulting that has been there. And that fear of losing different types of relationships, I think because that has become more constant and, you know, like for faith-wise, that would be like in Christ for me, I think that has helped me just have a more secure joy. And so my answer would be yes. And I have one more question within this because it just seemed to correspond. The other one is 사라져서 슬픈 것들. So 사라져서 means like things that have been lost. 슬픈 것들. So what is sad about the things that have been lost?
What is sad about the
사라져서
things
슬픈 것들.
that have been lost?
Because they've been lost, you're sad.
I don't know. My superficial answer would be like free time. And it really goes back to like, I don't need daily free time, but I like experiences that happen sometimes. So the broad thing is travel, right? But the idea of like every X amount of time, there's something that I get to experience that's sort of out of my norm that I really like look forward to. So I think that is hard to come by, right? And we're starting to implement that a little bit more. Like we have the time and space to, but that's been hard. I think just because that sort of like keeps me, it's that reset button for me that kind of rejuvenates me. So that's more of like a parent thing more than anything. I think I didn't really realize it because I don't like think about these types of things that often. But I think relationally, there was a part of that. There probably still is. Like I don't talk to my like close family or friends if they're not around me that often. I think I recognize it. I mean, to go back to the whole like my friends Derek and Christine, I think that idea came up of like not connecting with the people that I like truly like love the most, and then like I really don't, and I don't think it affects me very often. But I think
it affects me because I like try to push you to. Because I think that's like a relational disconnect we've had. It's like, okay, these are your important ones, but why aren't you meeting them? And that makes me really confused. But I'm glad you've made that with.
Yeah, I
like
think I just don't pay attention to it much because I'm not the type of person where these things like bother me with frequency.
It bothers me so.
But I think there is like a baseline of being just like less fulfilled relationally when like internally there's like a neglect for a lot of the people I care about the most. So, you know, honestly, I don't know how much that'll change, but even if it changes a little, I think that goes a long way where I find some moments. I think that loss of like the people I kind of deeply care about, that's a more under the surface thing that is, I think, there. And I think the more obvious there would be the one I said before. The free time one.
Oh, the free time
or like the experience one.
Gotcha. Okay, well, it's Valentine's Day.
Not yet. I'd be in trouble if it was now.
What are you going to do for me?
You want me to say?
Yeah.
Nothing that much. I'm going to...
are you going to say?
Oh, you just told me to say.
I was just kidding. One thing for me who is someone that says, oh, I don't need anything as a 2, right? And then I get mad when he doesn't do anything. I have been clear that for these little days, I'd like something sweet from him and my sons. Like you either making breakfast or you making a card with Jaden or Evan.
Yeah,
so
Evan's
that's something
too young
I'm
to
clear.
do that much with.
You can still do, you can pretend to write like it's him. Like you can get creative because that's the one thing I said is for Valentine's or Mother's Day, that's all I need, you know, but it's something I do want. And now I have stated my expectation. In the past, I don't think I would have stated it. And then I'd be like, oh my gosh, did nothing, you know, but like, yeah, I think that's like something I'm learning at least.
I have to think about what Evan can do for you.
So something that I wanted to plug is an Enneagram virtual date night that I am trying to start passing out. So if you are interested in having one with your spouse or significant other, there are spots opening starting for March through April. So please book with me. But one of the sneak peeks is from a book that I have been reading. And I'll just do the 2 and the 9 because that's you and me. But it's talking about just different practices based on your core motivation or the weakness that you carry. So for a 2, do you remember what my core weakness is?
Give me a multiple choice.
Like the deadly sins, basically.
No, but I think if I heard it, I would know. Give me a 4.
Mine is, it starts with a P. It's not like I'm an Enneagram coach.
Give me the next letter.
Mine, P-R-I.
Praying.
P-R-I. Pride. So for an Enneagram 2, it's pride in the sense of kind of believing that your needs aren't important, but that's like prideful because there's like a savior complex in a sense. So always focusing on other people's needs in a sense. But there's a part that says like spousal action. And that's the part I want to read. For a 2, a spousal action. So if you have a spouse that's a type 2, listen up. Give your 2 plenty of attention and reassurance, as well as terms of endearment to know they are loved, seen, and celebrated by you. When they manipulate, it's not just because of pride. They also fear that you will move away unless you see them as the best giver. They need your assurance that they are loved even when you take space.
I can see that.
Is there anything that comes to mind or some that you can see that, but is there a way you realize like how you could spousal action that towards me?
Yeah, I think just expressing like thankfulness or like positive like emotions towards you more directly and more
because
frequently.
Like I always feel like you don't care for me, but then the conversation is you care for me so much, but you don't say it. It's like something we talked about recently, remember?
Yeah. It doesn't come naturally for me to like express those things.
Yeah. Can I give the example of the weekend last weekend?
Sure.
Well, actually, let's go to yours first next. So for a type 9, do you know what your weakness is?
Let me think.
Don't try to look.
Yeah. No, like I can't
You
read
are
that.
totally looking over here.
I 100% hear that. Like lazy, slothfulness.
Sloth. Yes. So yours is sloth. And the spousal action for those that have a type 9 spouse is to create space for your 9 to utilize some of the soothing activities that were mentioned, like body work, especially for your body, which you are doing. Give them 1 day a week or month where they can choose whatever they want to do. Encourage activity, but also a short period of rest daily. When they share an opinion, slow down and listen with care. Okay, so some of the practices that were suggested was maybe studying the Bible, making daily lists, skincare routines if that's something, but a lot on group fitness or fitness in general. Oh, it says group fitness. That's something you were thinking of. But yeah, I think for me, maybe the thing I struggle with the most is probably when they share an opinion, slow down and listen with care. I think when you share an opinion, I'm quick to say, what? When did you think that kind of stuff? Or like, especially when you share the opinion around other people. I'm like, I didn't know that, I do that a lot.
Yeah, no, I think that idea is true.
But when it came to give them 1 day a week or month or try to do short period of rest daily, I do feel like I try to do that for you. I try to ask you when you need it so then I can at least schedule it in. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think you are.
I'm not saying on the fly. I'm saying scheduled in. So that means you have to speak up and tell me when.
Yeah, I think you are open to it. Yeah, if I were to like plan something. Yes, I agree.
But like
that.
if it's like just like Saturday morning and you want to do like that's spontaneous is hard for me for sure with 2 kids.
And I think when I do plan something, if you do it, then I should come back and say thank you.
Yeah. So I feel like, especially since I do a lot of work trying to understand the 9 because you are my husband. The example is that last weekend or 2 weekends ago, I guess now, I did try to let you have like a Friday night to Sunday morning getaway. Shout out Andrew and Mina, where you could kind of get that rest because I do agree you've been burnt out from work and just kind of need that like rejuvenation weekend. And I didn't even think much of it when it was like happening throughout the weekend itself. But what happened was when you came on Sunday, we went to our usual cafe spot and you walked in and you gave Evan and Jaden like the biggest hugs. And then you just sat down. And that just like triggered something for me. I was like, oh my gosh, he didn't even say hi to me. But like, that was just like 2 nights away, And then later I expressed that what it was, but I felt like you didn't validate it. And when I read this, I realize, like it sounds very lame, but I think you have to accept that I am a spouse that does need that affirmation. And I guess for me, it's like it said this line, they also fear that you will move away unless you see them as the best giver. And I think one for me is I have to tell myself that's not an identity I need to carry. But I think for you, I do need you to understand that's probably where it comes from a lot. And so while I have to work on my end, it would be nice for you to overly appreciate. I don't know if it's overly, just appreciate it verbally, if possible.
I mean, I agree. Like that can only be good to come from letting you know I appreciate you when I do.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you again later. Do you have any questions for me or anything else you'd like to say?
No, I'm lucky to be on the pod again.
I think I'm going to be inviting you a lot so that we can learn Korean words and talk through some reflections.
Yeah.
Do you remember the 2 main Korean words today?
No. One was there's like a sara something, and there was a sosu. That's all I remember.
So the book is called 생각 소스.
Oh yeah, the book.
But you said 사라,
Yeah.
사라져서. That's like the thing that's like
That's the second
disappearing.
one.
But the 2 words we can think through are the emotion words. 행복 means
Happy,
슬픈 is a meaning of
loss, sad.
sad. Think like 행복, happy. 슬픈, sad.
I'll try. I'm not
Okay.
good at these.
But you can just try, and like it'd be fun to just like, I think one thing about learning languages is just like taking one word and practicing it through this way. I'm not saying you have to like learn it later. I'm just saying this is a good way for you to like be exposed to the language that you promised me 10 years ago that you would learn for me.
I'll try to remember those.
All right. Well, I hope you have a happy Valentine's Day if you're listening. And if you would be interested in coming on the pod to share any of your resilient stories of transition, whether it's one of the past or one right now that you might be going through and that we could process together through the lens of the Enneagram, I'd love to invite you to guest on
Kohler Commentary.
Bye.